Back at it, JT. How you feeling?
I'm great, family. How was your weekend?
Weekend was good, brother. Thank you for asking. Nice, rainy, quiet weekend in Georgia.
Awesome. Oh, what you did for your mom for Mother's Day, man?
I said some nice stuff.
Oh yeah.
She's in a different state, so I have to
Oh,
do a virtual thing. But I had
oh,
DoorDash come through.
awesome. Awesome.
Um, Money,
Yep.
does it make life better?
100%. 100. I'm gonna be real. Like, so well, I grew up in Frog Leg, South Carolina,
Okay.
population like 3,000 people, and people were saying, well, money can't buy happiness, or money can't do this, can't do that. Man, they lied, man. They lied. Like, I'm gonna just be real. Money will get you safety.
Mm.
Money will get you a better quality of education. Money will get you access to experiences that you'll never have. Money can prolong your life.
Woo.
I'm gonna date myself a little bit here, right? And I'm not
Okay.
saying that, oh, when it's your time for God to call you home, you can pay him off. But Bootsy, right? I grew up in the South. Some of y'all know
Mhm.
who Lil Bootsy or Bootsy is. So I remember years ago hearing Bootsy say he had cancer. And he went and they said, hey, look, we're gonna put you on the list. And he said he heard a lot of people say, man, you stay on that list so long, people die on that list. So he went in there and he said, well, how much for me to get moved to the front of the line? They told him
Wow.
$90,000. He said, I can have $90,000 in 24 hours. He got the operation. Bootsy's still alive. When I heard that
Wow.
story, I said, my savings account can never go below $90,000 again the rest of my life. Like, if $90,000 can help me cure cancer, possibly, man, hey, that's gotta be the zero.
Mm. I agree.
Yep,
And let me ask you this next question.
yep,
People have the same amount of ability. They're equally as good of the thing of the business service that they are offering.
yep,
One person does 3,000 a month. One person does $300,000 a month.
yep.
What's the difference in the people?
It's confidence. Well, I guess mindset is a broader way to
Hmm.
say it. So, like, okay, the person that does $3,000 a month might say, well, I can't afford to hire anybody. I only make three thousand
Ooh.
dollars a month. If I hire somebody, I got to give them half the money or X amount of the money. I don't have enough money to survive, right? And because I thought that for many years. Well, I now realized that I can't afford not to hire people. So if I hire somebody, that person is supposed to make me 5, 10, 15x more than what I was making doing the job. So for example, I'm a content creator, right? I got to create videos and edit videos. If I hire somebody and all they got to do for 8 hours a day is edit a video, they're supposed to be able to edit that video 5, 10, 15 times better than me because they didn't have to come up with the concept, make the script, set up the lights, the cameras, book
Hmm.
the guests, do all the recording, make the thumbnail, make the title, market it, know when to drop it. Like all you have to do is get great at this one thing. So we got to get out of this habit of, hey, I can't do it because I don't have a lot of money. You must do it because you don't have a lot of money, or else you're gonna be stuck in that trap for forever. I'm biased, so don't hate me, but I'm gonna be honest. I have gotten addicted to virtual assistants, specifically from the
Mm.
Philippines. I have a structure, if you don't mind me sharing it with the people,
Yep.
Dre, that I get VAs basically for free that make me $15,000 or more a month.
Ooh.
All right. So can I
Okay.
give it to him, Dre, or you want to hold off on that?
Let's cook, man. For
I
the JT&Dre Show, let's cook.
All right, great. So a copywriter. I believe that most businesses need copywriters because you should be capturing leads. I learned a long time ago you don't have a real business unless you own customers. So
Yeah.
followers on social media is great, likes and views is great, but do you have a way that if they shut down your social media, can you text, can you email? How do you reach those people? If you can't do that, they not your customers, they Instagram customers, they YouTube customers. So every business needs to have their own list, name, email address, and phone number, right? What a copywriter does in a nutshell is they master the art of turning words into dollars. So what I do is I hire a copywriter. They're in charge of all of the copy on all of my websites, all of the emails, and all of the text message marketing that we do. And if I occasionally need like an ebook or something written, I'll, do a quick Zoom call with them, tell them my concept, and then they'll expound on that and write an entire ebook, right? So here's how you hire a copywriter with $0 and make, in my case, like $7,000 before I hired them. So I'm used to having to do tests in order to get a job. I don't know about you, Dre, about if you ever worked a job where you had to take a drug test or a background test or some kind of test, right? So I only had 2 real jobs, you all. So forgive me if I'm out of touch. But in the United States Marine Corps, I was in the military. I had to take an ASVAB test. And I had to take a physical test to make sure I was able to join the military. Then after the military, I was in corporate America at a company called Berkshire Hathaway, and I was an assistant operations manager. Then I was an operations manager. You have to take a reading comprehension test so that way they know that you can read and understand what you read and draw conclusions that make sense based off of the information that they gave you. If you don't pass the test, you can't be a manager, right? So I'm used to having to take tests prior to getting a job. And these are unpaid tests. They didn't pay me to take the ASVAB. They didn't pay me to take the physical or anything like that. So since we live in a society today where it is okay to make people take tests prior to getting a job, what I do is create money-making tests for each one of my job descriptions. So for a copywriter, I go to onlinejobs.ph, right? I ain't holding nothing back. Onlinejobs.ph. It's probably $70 or so a month subscription. If you tap in with Dre or me and you're one of our mentees, I'll make the posting for you for free. But $70 a month to get your subscription there. And now you can create job listings, and that is going to tap you into virtual assistants in the Philippines. So recently, I made a job listing. Let me see. Hold on. This is about to turn into a workshop right here, Dre. Can I share my screen?
Cook, yep.
All right, let me go to it. Boom. Let me log in real quick. All right. And I promise to be fast, you guys. This is not going to be boring. It's going to be impactful. All
There we
right.
go.
So, boom. Okay. This is not a copywriter, so we're not going to go deep with this, but this is onlinejobs.ph. And right here, messages is 90 people applied to this job, right? So
Man.
I went and right now I want to add another editor to expand my business, right? So I'm just showing you guys right here, free. You can just click post a job. You can use Chat GPT, or you could go on Indeed or somewhere and copy somebody else's job listing and paste it to be your own, right? So I make a job listing. I have anywhere from 80 to 200 people apply for any job. Depends on what the job is. If it's more technical, fewer people apply, like video editing and stuff like that. It's a little bit more technical. So like you saw, it was only 90 people so far applied to the job, right? Now, out of those 90 to 100 people that apply for the job, by the time I start following up with everybody, I'm going to send them a message. And for copywriters, I'm going to say, hey, look, hey, great. Well, before we get ahead of myself, because you guys know I'm easily excited, in the job posting, it's going to say, hey, if you want to be considered to be a copywriter, I want you to respond back in the subject line, SpongeBob SquarePants, or I like donuts. It don't matter, but you want something that's way left field, and you want that in the subject line of their reply. Right? Why do you want something random in the reply? What we're doing is we're testing them the entire way so we don't waste our time with tire kickers as well as we make money. So I want to know that they pay attention to detail. So if you're looking at a job listing to be a copywriter or a video editor or a grant writer or whatever it is that you need in your business, right? I don't want to have to micromanage you and be on top of you all day, every day, and have to pay you for it. I want to know that you're somebody that I could give you a task, you could thoroughly review the task, and you could execute on it at a high level with minimum supervision, right? Because we hire people so that way we can grow faster and we can work on our business, not in our business. We don't hire people so we can babysit them all day, right? So I'm going to put something random in there. Put SpongeBob SquarePants. Put I love donuts in the subject line, right? Completely unrelated to the job description, but that tells me you read the entire listing and you paid attention to detail. You didn't just skim through it, because if you have people on your team that details don't matter, it's going to eventually create chinks in the armor and you're going to have problems. So out of all of the people that apply, let's say out of those 90 to 100 or 200 people in your case that apply, let's say that over half of them, don't pay attention to detail. So now out of 90 people, we got 45 people. Well, that's a good thing. I only need one person to do the copywriting anyway, and I haven't wasted my time doing 45 meetings with people that are probably going to be headaches and not good at the job, right? So that's step one of our three-part hiring process, right? Step two of the hiring process is now I'm going to give them a sample, right? And this is literally the sample that I use for copywriters. So I have my own board game, and I'll say, hey, look, I want you to write a short email copy to sell this board game for 25% off. And I'll send that out to everybody, right? Now, out of the 45 people, some people going to say I don't work for free. Some people going to say I don't want to do it. Some people going to not do it within the time frame, because I'm going to tell them do it within 24 hours. Why within 24 hours, JT? Can you meet deadlines, and are you good at what you do? So let's say out of the 45 people, now we all the way down to 10 people. 35 people say I'm not going to do it, or they don't do it within the 24-hour time period. Well, I know, okay, the cream's starting to rise to the top. These 10 people, they pay attention to detail. They can meet deadlines. Now, what I don't know is if this copy sucks or is it amazing. So what do I do with those 10 people's copies, right? I copy and paste that into MailChimp, Beehive, MailerLite, whatever system you use to send out emails. And I send out 10 emails over the next several days as an email marketing campaign to promote my product. You don't got to have a board game. You can have an ebook. You can have a course. You can have a physical product. You can have whatever it is, right? But I'm going to send out those emails over a period of time, right? And I'm going to have the discount code different. So JT wrote one of those emails. So what's going to be the discount code? JT, let's not make it hard. Dre wrote one of those emails. What's the discount code for Dre's email? Dre. Now, once I see these orders coming in and I see Dre name is flooded in the coupon section, okay, without even reading Dre's copy, I know Dre is a good copywriter, right? Because Dre wrote that copy. All I did was take his name and make it a discount code, and out of 400 sales, 300 of them say Dre. So now I know, okay, guess who's going to get the Zoom interview? Dre, because I know he's good. But check this out, though. How much money did I pay to have 10 copywriters all write copy for me to send to my list and generate 400 sales? $0. Even after I hire Dre, right? And I'm just picking on you, Dre, for this example, right?
That's cool.
Most people get paid every 2 weeks. So I made X amount of money off of Dre before he even got his interview, right? So, like, how do we used to show up with an interview? We got a suit and tie on, we got a resume, a briefcase, we nervous, we hope we give a first impression, right? But now you on the other side of the table as the owner, and you like, man, look, like, I want to hire Dre as long as he don't cuss out my mama and spit on me. Like, he got the job. Like, already made what Dre's salary is for the year before he even made it to the interview. So we good. So Dre comes in, Dre gets the job. I still got 9 other copywriters. Let's say that JT, he wasn't as good as Dre, but he sold 60 of them, right? Okay, cool. If I ever need another one, or if Dre decides to pursue other opportunities down the line, I already got a little database in Excel or whatever you want to use to know, okay, here's another high quality copywriter. So next time, I don't got to keep going through the same process, unless you just want to make money before you hire them. So going back to the original question, somebody makes 3,000, somebody else makes 30,000 or 300,000. It's because they don't have the mindset, they don't have the confidence, they don't have the belief that they can execute on this. Even though I told them literally, like, it costs you virtually nothing to do this play, right? To see if it works or not. All right, but it's confidence. So I have one of my mentors does 8 figures a year, right? 8 figures a year, right? Somewhere around 80 million a year. And I was like, man, that's insane. People don't do $80 million in a lifetime. What's the secret? And he was letting me know that it's not any secret. Making money at a certain point, you know everything that you need to know. It's just about how are you going to be the best in the world at what you do, right? So instead of you
Mm.
trying to learn a new tactic, a new strategy, a new business, when are you going to lock in and say, hey, look, ain't nobody going to be a better notary business than me? Ain't nobody gonna be a better author than me. Ain't nobody gonna have a better health and beauty business than me, right? And he was like, that's when you start pulling away from the pack, right? Not when, okay, I made 100,000 doing this, now another 100,000 doing that. Now let me try to find something else, right? Get great at something, and that's really the difference, right, between the person that makes 3,000 and 300,000.
Whew. Jay Tizzle. All
Yep.
right. Some people consider this a controversial topic.
Mhm.
Paying to be on podcasts.
Yep. Yep. I think you should do it 100%. Right? We not straddling the fence. Here's the thing though. There's a way to do it because I heard that there's certain people podcasts is 50,000 to go on. It's
Wow.
25,000 to go on. It's 10,000 to go on. You don't go on there as Joe Schmo nobody, Jane Doe nobody, and say, here's my life savings or half of my 401k plan, and think that magically getting on that person's podcast is gonna make you $1 million. So I do think that well, first let me tell you why you should do it, and then we'll talk about how to do it, in my opinion. So there's something called credibility via osmosis. If
Mm.
me and Dre see you play basketball and say, hey, that person is nice, that's going to be the next LeBron James. That's going to be the next Michael Jordan. Guess what? You might not even make your high school team, right? But if Michael Jordan and LeBron James said the exact same thing, hey, this kid is nice. They're going to be the next LeBron James. They're going to be the next Michael Jordan, right? I don't know if you guys have been in the basketball as long as me. There was a time that we thought Carmelo Anthony, who was by no means a bad basketball player,
Oh yeah.
we thought that he was going to be what LeBron James is, right? Because Michael Jordan was co-signing Carmelo Anthony at one point in time when he first came out and he had the braids, right? And he was a Denver Nugget. So we was thinking, oh man, Carmelo Anthony, that's going to be the new face of the league. And he was a phenomenal player, had a phenomenal career. But as we can see now, LeBron James won more championships, been in the league longer, blah, 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 right? But it's something called credibility via osmosis. If you say you
Mm.
good, that's what you're supposed to say because you want my money. If Joe Schmo nobody says you're good, well, who cares what Joe Schmo nobody says? But if somebody that already has the like, know, and trust of your ideal buyers say, hey, Dre's the best notary in Atlanta. If you need something notarized, you should go to him, right? That's going to change Dre's entire business. Whoever the top attorney is, or if Tyler Perry says, hey, look, I let Andre Hatch's company notarize all of our business documents. That's the best notary in Atlanta, right? Your business will explode overnight. So the reason why you're going on podcasts and you're paying to go is because you want credibility via osmosis. Now, what
Mm.
I heard, I can't find the clip anymore, but it used to be a clip on YouTube where he said it, but he probably wised up and took it down. So Rich Dad Poor Dad is a known book. Robert Kiyosaki is the author, right? He was on Oprah. So the reason why we know Robert Kiyosaki is not because of Rich Dad Poor Dad, but if you really trace it back, he was on the Oprah Winfrey show when Oprah was syndicated everywhere. You couldn't go
Mm.
nowhere without seeing Oprah on TV. Well, it was said that the Oprah effect, which is what they called it when you went on Oprah back in the day, and then you went from being nobody to being a household name. It was $100,000 to sit in that seat. So
Wow.
Robert Kiyosaki allegedly spent $100,000, went on the Oprah Winfrey show, promoted Rich Dad Poor Dad. Now, because he consistently marketed his brand and his business, you might think of Robert Kiyosaki as a standalone brand. Like, nah, I know him from Rich Dad Poor Dad. Well, yeah, now But that's because he marketed to you for so long and so consistently, not being tied to Oprah, right? That now you know that, right? We don't know Dr. Phil without Oprah, right? Now, some people
Right.
might say, well, I just know Dr. Phil because he Dr. Phil. But if you've been around long enough, without Oprah, ain't no Dr. Phil. So even though that was pre-social media, we can see time and time again how smart marketers, smart business owners, how they leverage credibility via osmosis. John Wayne, my uncle, loved westerns, right? John Wayne he was Chuck Norris before Chuck Norris. And some people might get mad at that. But you will get John Wayne and put him in your cigarette commercial, put him in your Levi jean commercial, right? Because you want his credibility, right? So that's why we pay. All right, it's mutually beneficial. Now, how do we do it? Um, I don't, and this is not a shot at anybody podcast, so I'll just make it up, right? We not gonna go, me and Dre not gonna go to the Shake It Fast, Watch Yourself, Booty Shaking podcast, even though they got 100 million subscribers, every video gets a billion views, because we know that our product doesn't resonate with the Shake It Fast, Watch Yourself, Booty Shaking podcast, right? These are a bunch of guys that want to see the half naked women dance and hear a little bit about current events, right? Those aren't our buyers. Now, we might go to Dr. So and so podcast. Dr. So and so might only have 20,000 followers, but all 20,000 of them people like, know, and trust Dr. So and so when it comes to financial literacy or health and wellness or relationships or whatever, right? He's actually more valuable to us with 20,000 followers than Shake It Fast with 100 million followers. So don't
True.
just look at the number of followers and the number of views. Ask yourself, are the people that buy your product, do they even watch this kind of stuff? If not,
Mm.
then it doesn't matter how many views you get, you're not going to get your money back. You're not going to recoup, you're not going to turn a profit, right? So we're going to first identify those platforms. And then if Dre tells me it's $10,000 to come on the show, I'm going to create an offer that's designed for me to make at least my $10,000 back, but I want to make 10 times more than that. So, okay, what's a safe way for me to give Dre $10,000 and say, okay, it's a good chance that I won't lose money by going on his podcast, especially if it's one episode, it's not a recurring thing, because keep in mind, people are charging this for a single episode, right? I'm going to come on Dre's podcast. I'm going to give Dre, in my opinion, the best podcast ever, right? I'm not going to hold anything back. I'm going to try to tell him everything I know. And I'm going to give a special offer at the end for absolutely free. Or if I talk to Dre beforehand, he says, hey, look, it don't got to be free. It could just be cheap. But if he doesn't give me any guidance, I'm going to make a free offer at the absolute end of that. Now, somebody will say, hey, that's crazy. You paid this man $10,000. You told him all of your family secrets, and then you made a free offer. Well, keep in mind what we said earlier in today's episode. You don't have a business if you don't own customers. So
Mm.
if I can get on Dre's show and I can get 20,000 people to watch the show, and out of 20,000 people, let's say that 5,000 of them want the free thing because it's free, right? I now have increased my list of customers that I own by 5,000 people, right? At
Mhm.
this point, I could sell you a $2 thing and break even, right? I don't know about you, Dre. We don't got nothing for sale for $2 or less.
Nah.
So now I can nurture you. You like, know, and trust me because you seen me with Dre, right? When you got my freebie, it cost you your name, email address, and phone number. I know you gave me the right thing because I'm going to deliver whatever you want to your email. It's not going to be a download that you can get and you give me gotcha at noneofyourbusiness.com email address. So, hey, you gave me your real email address and I delivered the checklist, the ebook, the free training, the whatever it is, and it's going to be customized to their audience as well. Why? Because I want to have a high conversion rate of people that's on there. Now, once I get their name, email address, and phone number in exchange for the freebie, I can have an order bump that makes me a couple of dollars. I can have an upsell, a downsell, a cross sell, and start making money right then and there. But it's a long game, right? Just because Michael Jordan and LeBron James said this kid that's in high school is going to be the next one of them, they don't get to skip high school and college and go to the NBA. So you still got to go through high school, right? They don't let you go from high school to the league no more. You still got to do at least a little bit of college, then you can go. Same thing is true in business. So even though Dre co-signed me, I'm really going to get the benefit of that co-sign down the line. And if I do it right in perpetuity, I don't got to make all of the money today. So that's why we do it, and that's how we do it, in my opinion. And I have no problem paying to be on people's shows, and I got my own show we charge people to be on. So just
There we
being
go.
honest. Yep.
Everybody wins.
Yep.
There are three things that I've seen with coaching so many people that people have in common that holds them back. I'll
Yep.
give my three. You can give your three if
Okay.
you think there's something else.
All
The
right.
need to be right.
Mhm.
Have you seen people?
Yes.
All right. The need to do things their way.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Um, the ego, the fact that the feeling that they know it all already, even though they paid
Yep.
you to tell them they know it already. Do
Yep.
you agree with those three things? Do you have three other things that you've seen that hold people back?
Yep, you said the need to be right, their ego, doing it their way. I think that captures everything. But if this just gives more clarity to it, the need or the expectation that it should be free or cheap to get their transformation.
Okay.
All right. So because people assume that Dre got to this level of success because one day Dre's uncle, Dre's father, some random person that's not kin to Dre said, "Hey, I'm gonna hold your hand and teach you how to become a successful notary." Right? That may not be the reality at all. All right. So Dre might have went through trial and error and spent years of his life learning. Dre might have invested in a book, a course, a mentorship, and learned that way, right? So people try to discount it, and people used to say, "Well, somebody helped you. Who?" Right? Who? Like if don't just arbitrarily say somebody, right? Because who helped me then? Like you can't just assume that
Mm.
you got it cheap, you got it free, so you should give it to me cheap or free, right? I tell people, man, I invested over 6 figures just in the infrastructure to create content, over $1 million if I'm factoring in paying mentors and traveling and going here and going there over the course. And I've been in it since 2017, as well. So it wasn't all at once, but it was a substantial 5-figure investment plus every single year, right, to get to this level. So yeah, like how I tell people, I'm unapologetically a believer. I'm not a perfect Christian. If I stump my toe in the middle of the night, I'll say stuff like I'm a sailor too, right? I make mistakes every single day, but I credit all of my success to God. So my whole thing with bringing that up is, yes, I think that God will help you along the way. That's universal, but there's still going to be some work you got to put in. There's going to be an investment that you have to do. I'm not one of those people that thinks that I could just do nothing and God will magically drop money in my bank account, right? So I tell people we got to start recognizing money in every form. So some people recognize money. Let me see if I got any cash on me, right? So some people, the only way you recognize money is when it looks like all of these ones and stuff, right? So this is the only time you recognize money, right? And until you see money that looks like bills or change or whatever, you don't recognize that that's an opportunity to make some money. So money starts off as an idea, right? The clothes that we're wearing, the glasses, the lights that we're using, the cameras, the laptops. Once upon a time, it didn't exist. Somebody had an idea to create that clothing line, these glasses, these lights, this stuff, right? So first, and I'm gonna preach for 2 seconds, Dre, but I promise to open up the doors of the church after this, right? So
Okay.
we believe, Christians, we believe that King Solomon was the richest guy to ever live, right? And he asked to be a great leader. Now, he asked to become a great leader. Now, God didn't send a Brinks truck to the palace full of money, right? God gave Solomon wisdom, right? To us, wisdom is a mindset. Wisdom is a belief system. I can't look at you and tell if you wise or not. You can say stuff or you can behave in a certain manner and I can determine if you're wise or not. But wisdom, I can't see it until you say or do something. It's a belief system that's internal. So if God gave the person that was the richest person ever a belief system, and that belief system manifested into wealth, right? Why do we not believe that when we ask God to make enough money to quit our job or to make 6 figures or 7 figures or whatever, right? And then he give us an idea, and then we say, well, we can't do that because I don't got the money. I don't know how to do it, right? So money first is an idea.
Mm.
After it's an idea, your job is to make it into an opportunity. So how do we take an idea and make it into an opportunity, right? Well, if we were a big corporation, we would say R&D. Since we small and from Frog Legs, South Carolina, we call it Chat GPT. That's how we
That
do
you
research
okay.
and development. So instead of spending millions on R&D, we spend $20 on Chat GPT or less if you got the free plan, right? So now the idea is a problem that somebody has. It could be a problem that you had 5 to 10 years ago, right? So then we're going to take that idea and turning it into an opportunity. So, okay, a problem that I had was a toothache, right? My tooth was killing me. I found out I had severe nerve damage. I had to get that removed. All right.
Mm.
But when I was going to the dentist, they're telling me, man, we booked up for 3 weeks. We booked up for a month. You got to come back then and there. I don't know if anybody out there has ever had nerve pain, whether it was a sciatic nerve in your back or toothache pain that was tied to nerves. Any kind of nerve pain is excruciating. So to go to a doctor and they say live with that for 3 weeks to a month and then we'll
No.
fix it, that's unacceptable, right? So I went
Mm.
to a private dentist and said, okay, what's tomorrow's price? Right? And they gave me tomorrow's price and I got in, right? But okay, that's a problem. That's an idea. How do I take that problem, that idea, and turn it into an opportunity? Well, in the meantime, man, I got Oragel like it's going out of business. Right. So
Mm.
I'm Oragel down. And for anybody that hasn't experienced this before, you have a severe toothache, it just numbs you basically, right?
Yeah.
Buy it over the counter. Well, guess what? Can I go to Alibaba or AliExpress or find a vendor online that will let me private label my own version of Oragel or mouthwash or anything like that? Right? 100% I could. I know it because I looked it up while I was having the toothache. Right? So now that's an opportunity, right? Hey, do you have a severe toothache and dentists are telling you that they can't get to you for 3 weeks to a month? Well, guess what? We're going to be able to get you this within 24 hours or less, right? So we'll mail it straight to your door. If you don't get it that fast, it's free, right? Or whatever marketing campaign you want to have, but that's an opportunity, right? And that's a small opportunity that can make you a lot of money. But think about what problems you had 5 years ago, what problems you had 10 years ago. That now thinking back on it, you like, okay, man, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, or oh, I'm glad I made it through that. And now you can advise somebody else on how they can go through it. So money, before it looks like tangible bills, is first an idea, then it's an
Mm.
opportunity, then it's the tangible bills in your pocket. So we got to start being able to recognize money in all its forms.
There we go.
Yep.
So why would somebody pay somebody, then still give them pushback about what they said?
Because they paid for confirmation, not transformation. And that's the mistake that they made, right? You pay somebody to for confirmation, not transformation. So as business owners ourselves, I mean, we can look at it both ways. We can take responsibility to a certain extent and say, hey, look, in the offer were we clear that we were selling transformation, not confirmation? Or,
Mm.
not saying me or Dre, but some people, hey man, I just want to make a $500 sale, $1,000 sale. So in our marketing, we did whatever we thought would give the $500 sale. And now you're dealing with a headache customer, a nightmare customer. So yeah, when people spend money, and they still give you pushback, they were paying for confirmation, not transformation, or they're afraid because whatever you're telling them to do is something that they've never done before, and they don't understand that that's why they paid you. Confidence is the memory of success. So if I pay Dre for him to mentor me to become a successful mobile notary, and Dre tells me to do some marketing that I never heard of before, okay, great. That's why I paid him because he knows what kind of marketing to do to make money, and I don't. right? So being willing to sow those seeds and get that transformation is something we got to be clear on. Message to anybody that ever did that, or if you even think like that before you buy something, right? It's no need to pay somebody money to get confirmation. Just do what you believe is right, right? If you know that what you do is right and you're gonna get pushback on somebody, don't even waste your money. Don't even waste the mentor's time. If you already think you know the right answer, just do the right answer. And then when it doesn't work, that's gonna make it even more valuable that you go tap in with Drake. Right. But you don't got to pay money for confirmation. You could just do it, and then the results will give you confirmation enough.
Whew, that solves that.
Yeah.
Um, what's what do you spend your money on? So you don't have a high end car unless you
Nope.
bought one before, and I did. Okay,
Now I got a Honda and a Toyota.
okay. I didn't want to say the brands. I didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't go on trips every month out the country.
Nah. Nope.
All right.
Nope.
Um, I've never seen you in Gucci. I don't know if you own Gucci. Yeah, I guess not.
Nah. I need to though. It's our people can hear you. They can't hear us when we in regular clothes. So I gotta put on Gucci so they can hear me better.
So, where does your money go?
Real estate. So I own 9 properties free and clear in South Carolina and North Carolina,
Whew.
debt free. I'm also learning more about stocks. I don't have a crazy stock portfolio. One thing that I also do is I'll invest in relationships. So when I look at
Mm,
mentorship, I'm thinking about relationships. Now that doesn't mean necessarily that I'll become best friends with whoever the mentor is, but if they're going to put me in a group, maybe I can resonate with somebody that's in that community also, and then that can lead to a partnership that makes us, 5 6 7 figures over the lifetime of us working together and doing things. So yeah, so
mm,
right now I spend my money on the unsexy things, so on infrastructure, on relationships, on assets, and I'm going to tell you why, and I'll also tell you why I may be wrong, and I'm gonna let Dre, tell me if I'm, because I use Chat GPT as a therapist. So when I say my therapist, I mean Chat GPT, because black men don't go to therapy. We go to church, and now we go to Chat GPT because you don't want nobody to call you crazy, right? So, okay. I met a gentleman by the name of Mr. Patel, and he's the richest guy I ever met. Right. Now I grew up being told that the Indian people own all the 7-Elevens, the Jewish people got all of the money. No disrespect if you're Jewish or Indian watching this. I'm just telling you
mm,
the reality, not, saying that it's true or anything. But that's how I was raised as an ignorant country boy in South Carolina. As an
mm,
adult, I kept hearing it. So I said, I want to know if that's true, right? So I started researching different things. And then I came across, actually meeting a successful Indian man by the name of Mr. Patel. And he was kind enough to teach me about investment groups, or what we call group economics or syndication, or whatever it is you want to refer to it as. And I was saying, hey, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a country boy. I don't say everything right, but I'm just gonna ask the question the best way I know how. Why black people can't do this? And he kind of chuckled
mm,
and he said, you know what? You can, but there's two things that are holding you back, right? One is that extreme, not all Jewish people, not all Indian people that are, I think, Hindu feel this way. But he said, a lot of my close friends that believe what I believe, that are his religion or Jewish, right? They believe that at the end of their life, God is going to judge them based off of how they were stewards over everything. So if God blessed you with a wife, how did you treat that wife? If God blessed you with kids, how did you treat those kids? If God blessed you with money, what did you do with that money? Right? So they believe that at judgment, right, they're going to get judged based off of how they treated everything that God gave them. They believe that if you don't teach your kids how to make money, or future generations how to make money, that you will be looked at negatively because of that. Because the alternative, if you don't teach your children how to make their own money, either they'll have to do something illegal to make money, or they're subject to abuse that they can't escape. What does that mean? They got to go work a 9 to 5 job. So what if the manager says something sexually inappropriate to your daughter? So what if
mm,
the owner of the business cusses out your son, right? Well, they need the money. They got bills, right? So if the owner of the business, does these things or talks to them, even if it's not that extreme, if they just don't like the tone or don't like how they're treated, don't like the work environment, right? Well, you got a mortgage, you got rent. So you got to stay here and endure this, or you got to find another job that'll have a different set of problems because you don't have the autonomy to be able to make legal money without being underneath somebody. So he said that's the first thing that holds other cultures of people back, right? He says, secondly, if you're the first generation doing this, it's so hard to do because you got to make enough money for 3 generations, right? So this is how he broke down. Well, he taught me investment groups. We could talk about investment groups next week if you want to, but
Okay.
just for the sake of time, right? So he was saying that the first generation, right? Let's say you're the first person in your family to make 6 figures, 7 figures. You're the one that's going to start building generational wealth. He says, right, here's the formula. You got to make enough money for 3 generations, right? So you got to make enough money to take care of you, your kids, and your grandkids. Not only do you got to make enough money for 3 generations, you also have to raise kids that are ethical and moral enough to understand why you didn't blow all of the money and why they shouldn't blow all of the money. Because wealth is usually going by the 3rd generation anyway. So you got to raise your kids and say, hey, look, when I'm not here, there's 3 generations worth of money. You can't spend 2 and leave your kids 1. You got to keep the process going. The reason why it's 3 generations and not 2 is because now your kids can build wealth during their lifetime. And while they care for their kids, financially speaking, they don't have to worry about having money to clothe the kids, feed the kids, put the kids in college, right? Of course, you can also use trust, life insurance policies. That's when we get into the minutia of how he explained to execute on it. But imagine, if you will, you come from the projects, you come from the trailer parks, you come from wherever your hood is in your area. You make enough money for you not to have to worry about your lifestyle for the rest of your life. You make enough money for your kids not to make enough, not to worry about money during their lifetime. You make enough money for their grandkids not to make enough money in their lifetime. But you still in a Honda. You still in a Toyota because, hey, I need to teach my children, teach my grandchildren, and set up infrastructure that eventually one of these kids, they're going to be hard-headed. One of these grandkids going to say, man, granddaddy been dead 100 years. Get me the Rolls Royce, right? So now we need to have trust funds, life insurance policies. We need to have some tight estate planning, and we need to have some wise people that's around them to say, hey, look, we not going to let you blow all of the money, right? Or make it very difficult to. I guess nothing is impossible. So me personally, why I could sell, I could go all the way down to just enough real estate for me to never have to worry about making money again, and take all of the money I make from selling the other real estate and have a Rolls Royce, a Lamborghini, and be, man, stunting like my daddy, Lil Wayne, back in the day, right? But because I'm trying to build generational wealth and I'm the first generation that's doing it. Now my kids might be in a Benz or even in a Lamborghini, but the life that they're going to have, that Lamborghini is going to be nowhere near 30% or 20% of their annual income, right? It's going to be so far removed. But for me, since I'm the one that's building it, man, I when I bought the Honda and Toyota, I ain't knew none of the specifications. I can't tell you what engine is in it. I can't tell you nothing about it. I was like, what's the cash price? 20,000. Okay, where I am in life, I can spend 20,000. So I bought $20,000 car. Right now, I couldn't do that and get a $200,000 car at that time. Right. So I spend my money on assets. And the reason why is because I want to have a Biltmore estate. I don't know if you ever been there before, Dre, or seen it, but man, like I want to have a Biltmore estate. I want to have a compound. I want to have a legacy where my family and even strangers are positively impacted. And they say, hey, JT wasn't perfect, but JT taught us if you keep God first, you can reach all your financial goals. And if I'm able to live that legacy, man, it was a life well lived, even if I never get past the Honda.
Ooh, I dig it. Last question.
Yep.
Um, do webinars still work?
I will say webinars work, but I will tell you this: uh, you need to start split testing your webinars, especially
Mm,
if you're doing pre-recorded webinars. People that I know that do live webinars, man, they want everybody to think webinars are dead because they're making a killing. Because in a live webinar, I can engage with you. I can say, hey, let me know where you from in the chat. Shout out to Andre Hatchett from Atlanta, right? Shout out to Donald Trump from Washington, D.C., right? Shout out to Elon Musk from the moon, right? So now it's that engagement where, okay, this is a real human being. We can have a conversation, and people like that type of environment, right?
Yeah.
In a pre-recorded environment, it's more of like a talking head, and people can get inundated, people can get bored and hopped out. So if you're doing a live webinar, you're just fine. I think it's more of split testing your webinar and knowing what's the purpose of the webinar. So split testing means, why not try a mini webinar? Do a webinar that's 15 minutes or less, 10 minutes or less. You give them straight to the sauce, and if they want to know more, they can come behind the curtain, right? Not just a 1 hour, 2 hour long masterclass where we break down everything under the sun. Here's the meat and potatoes, right? You want to know how to make money? Here's how to make money. If you want to know how to make the money, even though I told you what to do, you still need to know how to do it. Then come tap in with me, right? So I was split tested, and the purpose of the webinar, right? So the advertisement that they see before the webinar, that advertisement is promising them the transformation, right? You was fat, you'll be skinny after spending 6 weeks on my workout plan, right? You had no credit, you'll have a 800 credit score within the next 90 days if you join my credit repair boot camp, right? You were broke, you'll make $10,000 a month after 90 days of coaching with me, right? So the ad pitched the transformation, right? The webinar, right? The job of that webinar is to make sure that they know they can do it, right? A lot of people will get in the webinar. Let me teach you all of this sexiness so that way you know that I know what I'm doing, right? Guess what? Just because Dre, right, and I'm just gonna make some, just because Dre know how to build a house from scratch, right, and he tell me, hey man, here's how to do the foundation, then the framing, then do this, do that, and then boom, you got your house. Just because Dre told me how to build a house, I still want to buy a house, or I still want to pay a contractor. I don't want to go out there and try to build my own house. Why? Because I don't have the confidence of Dre that he can do it. So the webinar, above all else, yes, you telling them this is the transformation and what they need to do. But the biggest emphasis on your webinar is, by the time you finish this webinar, whether you was with me 15 minutes or 2 hours, you need to be confident that you can get this transformation, because I have a system that's so simple or so assisted or so foolproof that it's harder for you to fail than it is for you to succeed. And I recently learned that that's actually a law of physics. That's not just some fly talk that marketers use. So in deep space, right? And this is me just being a nerd, right? Living up to the stereotype of men that wear glasses. Not Dre though, Dre cool, right? So in deep space, if you trying to go to the moon or to Mars, right? You gotta use your engines to get out of the atmosphere of Earth, and you gotta aim where the moon will be. So you don't say there's the moon, let's go to it, because by the time you get there, because it revolves, you gonna be just in deep space nowhere, and you like, what happened to the moon? So you aim for where the moon will be by the time you get your rocket ship there. So you're going to go out of the atmosphere, and then you got to turn your engines off. Why do you got to turn your engines off? It ain't no BP stations in space. So you ain't got big enough gas tanks to make you all the way to the moon. So what you're going to be doing is in free fall, going to the point where the moon is going to be, right? You don't run your engines all the way there because you don't have enough fuel, and it ain't no BP stations out there for you to re-up, right? So how does that translate in entrepreneurship? So in entrepreneurship, that's mindset. Once I get your mindset changed and I get you some small wins, it's harder for you to stop, right? If I want to be a notary, but I never made more than $5 a stamp as a notary, and then I get in Dre's program and I start seeing $200 days, $300 days. Oh man, I had a $500 day. Now I'm back to $200 days. It's harder for me to stop being a notary and go back to dropping fries at McDonald's. Now, McDonald's been around for forever, probably outlive all of us. And that's a quote unquote safer way to make $200. But because I got so much momentum and I'm already on my way to success, right? And that's what your job is in your training program, your webinar, tying it back to your question, your webinar is telling them, hey, look, this is the transformation that you're going to get. And here's how I know you're capable of doing it, right? Because I designed my program at a third grade reading level, right? Unless you're trying to target, a different demographic of people. But if you're trying to make it for the average person, right, I'm not using automatopoeia, big old words, right? I'm using simple, everyday third grade language. I'm showing you simple marketing. You don't need a whole PhD from MIT to be able to understand how algorithms work and marketing dollars work, right? So that is how webinars work, why webinars work, and I would recommend 100% people to still utilize webinars, but split test your webinar, right? So try a short webinar. If you've been doing 30-minute or 1 hour long webinars, people not showing up, people not sitting through it, do a 10-minute webinar. Now pack all your most important stuff into 10 minutes, and people gonna be like, oh man, it's over already. I got questions. I want to do that. I want to do this. And the number one thing after leaving that webinar is they can do it too, right? Because if they don't think they can do it too, they're not going to keep going.
Ooh. JT with the heat.
Yes, sir.
Back next week?
Oh, absolutely. As
All
long as
right.
you'll have me, I'm back every week you'll have me.
All right, let's do it. Every week we are here. See you
Yep.
guys soon. Take these gems and implement. You will get nowhere without implementation. Thinking is overrated. See you guys soon. Peace. All right, JT. Good looking.